Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 24 of Cognitive. Welcome back. And speaking of welcome back, I've now been home for about 36 hours from my adventure at Big Bear Lake. And so there will be a bit of everything, I guess, today. It's really great to be back in the sort of organized chaos that is Rancho Cognitive. And I missed the boys. At the same time, I have to be honest, I've got serious withdrawal because I didn't realize how silent the silence was for me, that it was really an amazing, really about 72 hours of being on my own and selectively contacting people at Morris, and at the same time being able to turn it off and be alone. I think it was only when I was leaving Big Bear and I was packing up the wonderful little condo I was in, which I had filled with my junk and had a very convenient time there. And I found the TV remotes. And I looked at them and said, what are those? Because in the whole time I'd never turned on the TV. I have no idea how many channels were available. We had great Wi-Fi. But that's my idea of a vacation, I think, is I'm not very tuned in to television anymore these days. So if you go to the show notes, which are living at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com, and of course cognitive is spelled in my own unique way, C-O-G, the word knit, I-V-E, podcast.blogspot.com. You will see some more Big Bear pictures. It was a wonderful, wonderful break. And it's been very hard coming back to civilization. I had a very difficult time. I drove home yesterday, which was Friday. And today would be Saturday, April 17th, and it's 9 p.m. as I record this. And the drive home was fine because I scared the mud out of myself by getting up early in the morning, clearing out, cleaning up the condo because I really felt they had left it to me in such spectacular condition and I wanted to return the favor. And the staff were just so incredibly nice. And this, by the way, was Lagunitas Lodge, which I cannot recommend enough. $78 a night for a condo on the lakeside in a quiet neighborhood. The nights were so silent. It was just blissful. The price was unbelievably good, and the condo was unbelievably well stocked. We had a fold-out queen-size bed, I think, at least a double, was in the living room couch, which my son slept in when we got there, and we had a queen bed in the main bedroom. And the kitchen was tiny, but had a microwave, had a small oven, had a 4-burner stove, had a full-size fridge, had a breakfast bar. I mean, it even had amazingly good counter space in the tiny space it took up. I can't say enough positive things. Now, if you're a Stanford grad, you will know automatically why I ended up in a place called Lagunitas Lodge. The rest of you, I leave it to you to figure out. I have show notes, as I've said, at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. They are also on Ravelry in the Cognitive group. And, of course, there are more bears in the show notes. I didn't get my favorite bear, who was one stretched out sleeping on this ledge at the edge of the shopping village. But still, I became fond of the bears. I do have one of my favorites, which is the bear fishing. He's the first bear in my photos group there. And then there was a couple who, in front of their house, had a bear couple. And I thought that was adorable. Anyway, there were many, many wonderful bears all over Big Bear Lake, and everybody just gives into it. You know, in the beginning, you're like, oh, that's so kitschy. And then after a while, you see all the stores in town that do custom carved bears, and you realize, yes, everybody just gives into it. The town itself, if you're reading carefully, you will see it's only got a population of I think it's 6,000, 6 or 7,000, and yet there's just hundreds of houses and condos. It feels very suburban. At the same time, I was there, of course, in April, and that's wonderful because they advertised it as Southern California's only four-season resort. Well, I have to tell you, being there from Sunday through Friday in April was super. It was not crowded. You could certainly pick out the ski bums. You could pick out the locals. I just missed spring break, for which I'm deeply, deeply grateful. And right after I got there, the town changed all their signs to be signs congratulating the graduating classes of the town. And I liked that on the main streets they had banners with pictures of their locals who are serving in the armed forces. In other words, it felt very small town in this big tourist trap kind of way, if you can understand that. The restaurants weren't super, surprisingly, although I must say I'll never get over Crave Maine Lobster. That was so fabulous. Himalaya was good, but I actually ended up cooking for myself most of the time. And at this moment, I've realized that I've strayed off the topic of my podcast, so let's go back. All right, so you can leave your comments on Ravelry or on the Blogspot group. I would love to hear from you. You can add yourself to the Cognitive Listeners Map. You can go look up my YouTube channel, which is imaginatively titled Dr. Gemma, spelled out. And what else? There won't be a CFR fiber retreat this year. And I won't be adding any of you to my follower groups on any social media. So you can join the group on Ravelry, and you can certainly follow me on Blogspot, where you can join as a follower, but forget anything else because I got too many weirdos trying to follow me. And in my job, not always the best idea. In the warm thanks department, just little bits of gratitude to Caitlin and Lloyd and Sprinkles NP. Welcome to both of you. I enjoyed your comments. And Caitlin, I assume that is. I'm glad you're enjoying my content. Sprinkles, I know what you mean. If we didn't have fluffy books, how would we make it through? There's a reason I don't watch television, and I don't watch a lot of movies outside of really fluffy Disney cartoons, because, I talk to patients all day. If I want drama, I can just go through my charts. And, that's normal, too. Well, I say that as a bit of a joke. That is what I've chosen to do with my life. You have to expect I have my own dramatic backstory too, like all of us. So I don't mean, in other words, to be critical of my clients or my patients when I say that. I just mean that I listen to people's situations for a living, and to be honest, they're a lot more interesting. And it can get pretty intense, and so I actually try to give myself as much quiet and calm as I can when I'm away from the caseload. Although this week, as I will tell you, there were a lot of other interesting things I could do. One of them, however, was not knitting, which leads very naturally, I hope, into what's on my hooks and needles. Well, you'd think, so far I think I've had 7 days off, you'd think I would have finished something. Nope, not a single thing. However, I almost did. I finished one Spectrum sock, as I told you in my last episode, and I still have not touched the ribbing on that. What I did instead was got a little crazy, went back to Twin Faces vest, said, okay, it's 14 inches. She's 6'1". I'm 5'5.5", and I wear a 14-inch side length under my armpit in a vest. So she obviously isn't going to. So I just joined the third skein of the coral-colored yarn and started again, adding more rows, because I figured, okay, so I'm going to go to, I think, 16 inches for her, and then I'll just, cut the yarn and put in the rescue line and so on. I realized if I send it to her and it's too short, she's just chronically incapable of pulling out a tape measure, even if I send her one and going, okay, Jen, 2 more inches. She just doesn't work that way. And so I just wanted to be a lot closer, and maybe I will send her the tape measure anyway with it and just say, look, put this on, pull it up to your armpit, and then let me see how much more you want. I don't know. You just can't believe how hard it is to get her to get a concept here which is simple and obvious to every knitter, which is your knitted attire can fit you. That if I knit it to a pattern, how can I possibly be using the same pattern for a woman who is 6'1" and has a 34-inch chest that I would use for a woman who is 5'5.5" and has a 40-inch chest? I mean, right there you can tell there's somebody's going to have some short rows or some tailoring, right? And I can't get her to see that how can my vest be shorter through the body but bigger in the chest? How would that work in terms of, if you think in terms of store-bought shirts, how would that work? One person or the other would be buying a drastically incorrectly sized shirt, whether one shirt for the tall person was too short or whether the shirt on the short person was too long to accommodate the larger bust size. You know, it's ridiculous, but this is not a concept she's able to quite get. What can I tell you? So I began the third skein on that, and I've been knitting along quietly, and I've really only put in a row or two. So I will work on that. Meanwhile, the poor wild lettuce shawl, it's not even up to its midpoint. It should be done by now. I was going to do one repeat a day. By now, the thing would be close to finished. I feel sort of guilty, except I don't. And right now I'm lying in bed, and I've got the second Spectrum sock with me, because as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to frankly listen to my Lady Darby novel and knit, and I want to knit brainlessly. I do not want to do lace. So I've done a shamelessly small amount of knitting and crafting. However, the temperature blanket is now caught up. I came home and immediately cranked out the 5 rows, which I think ended up being 1 row of canary and 4 rows of alfalfa to make up for the days I was away from home. And we're back to a canary row for today that I have not yet put in. I'm still eyeing the Owl Post sweater. There's a link in the show notes. This is from, I think it's called Magical Knitting, Harry Potter Magical Knitting, the latest authorized collection of knitwear that by Tennis Gray, and it's just superb. I was reviewing it a few episodes back. So I'm eyeing it, is all I can say. I haven't touched it yet. I'm not wearing anything knitted right now or handmade. It's kind of unusual, but I'm lying in bed too. I don't tend to make my own pajamas. I've done it once or twice in the past. But anyway, no, it's warm. It's warm. So that means I'm shifting into the summer knitting, which I hope means a pair of socks every month and then some smaller sweaters like some vests. I'd like to finish twin-face vests. She is mailing me back the starter vest that I made that was too big for her. She is mailing that back, and that will liberate 2 skeins of vest yarn. And I have to look at that carefully. Well, I don't know. I was thinking I was going to have extra yarn from her vest. And I thought, you know, these are really inexpensive yarns. I might actually just do a kind of fade vest. Just buy some coordinated colorways, you know, and leave the bottom as it is. Take off the, let me explain what I'm saying. That one is, that vest that she has, the partial one that's too big for her, I can't remember if it would fit me. But if it would, I'm going to think about this seriously. And that is, it's got 2 skeins of yarn. I've already got a 3rd skein on hers, and probably I only need that 4th skein to finish. If even that much, frankly, probably. I'm going to need at least 2 more skeins. So I'm thinking I will unravel just one of those 2 skeins to add it to her vest in progress. If I can save that last skein for moi, or if I happen to have any more of the coral, which is actually very possible that I have 1 or 2 other skeins of it, I will probably do the bottom of that vest. I will probably leave it alone in the coral and instead start changing colors, rip back a few rows and start changing colors, maybe use a Fibonacci sequence or something, and start doing a fade for myself. Because, hey, if you have the bottom of a vest already knitted, why would you not? So anyway, I'm toying with those ideas. Sure, I'm greedy. Why not? I've already got like 5 inches of vest knitted in my size. Of course I'm going to use it for me if I can find a way. Don't be ridiculous. All right, meanwhile, let's see where I am. Oh my gosh, Dizzy Blondes. I still have not opened the new e-wheel, and I haven't opened the roving from our local Desert Churros. It's so embarrassing. The woman who runs it keeps messaging me through Etsy and saying, how's that roving? Did you like the roving? And I just feel so embarrassed because I haven't even touched it yet. I'm imagining its course. She seems to make it into pillow covers and blankets, looking at her website on Etsy. And there is a link in the show notes. But no, I haven't touched it. Strategy, at last. You should know, as I'm recording this, the water in Big Bear was spectacular. It was all mountain runoff, really crystal clear and clean. So I brought home water bottles full of it, and I'm enjoying them now as I lie here. On to a strategy. Now, as you may recall, we are using the acronyms from dialectical behavioral therapy for distress management, what to do when you're upset. And we're on the second acronym, IMPROVE, which stands for improve the moment. So if you're stuck in a bad moment, you can't just walk away, and you've got to sort of stand there and take it. That's more what improve is aimed at. And we're on the E, hooray. And the E stands for encourage yourself. Now, I love that a few weeks back in Mother Knows Best, Gigi Knitmore actually gave this strategy. First of all, imitation is the highest form of praise. Secondly, to be imitated by Gigi Knitmore, whether or not she was doing it consciously, is no small compliment because, you know, she's a goddess. And so I was delighted because what Gigi was doing was phrasing it in terms of talk nicely about yourself. Don't rip yourself apart verbally. And DBT would agree with that when you say something, that when you repeat something over and over, it is a form of brainwashing. Why do you think advertising works? Why do you think I'm still walking around able to sing the McDonald's jingle from when I was in 5th grade? You doubt this? 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. There it is, man. What was that? That was a Big Mac, I believe. At any rate, it's because advertising brainwashes us by repeating ideas in attractive sound bites over and over again. And so whatever you say to yourself is the way you're going to start thinking of yourself. One great thing about DBT is it takes that concept a step further. Instead of just saying this sort of everyday mantra of I am good, I am great, I am doing things well. DBT says when you are distressed, it's really important to say things to yourself that are positive, like I'm getting through this. I may not like this, but I'm getting through this. Or I got this. I can handle this. This isn't as bad as it sounds. Or I've gotten through worse things than this. I'm really strong. Or here is another challenge I am rising to. Or if things are really bad, sure, this other person thinks that they're chewing me out, but the reality is they're telling me things I need to know, and I have to hold on to the reality that I can do these things. That's a bit wordy. All right, but you get the idea that you're standing there and you're saying, I got this. I'm calm. I can handle this. This is a challenge I will rise to. Here is my challenge for the day. I got this. Whatever, but keep it short, keep it pithy, keep it something that you can cling to when you're feeling distressed. It can be anything. It can be, I'm going to be okay. Or if you're really sad, you can say, I'm really sad, but all moods change. I will be fine this time tomorrow, or I will be fine in an hour. Whatever you need to say to help yourself. If you're feeling really down, really, really upset, you're thinking, oh, maybe the world would be better if I wasn't here, whatever, those kinds of thoughts. You need to say to yourself, I need to stop this, or I can handle this, or that's just my sadness talking, that's not reality. Things like that, all right? You talk yourself through the bad times. Put a lid on it well. I came home, and the beloved and the beloved son were kind of quiet. They were very busy when I got home. I got home, about 12:15 Friday afternoon. And they were in the middle of their day doing their things. But I came in and my husband had made plans to celebrate my return in the nicest possible way. He made a garlic stuffed chicken in the Romertopf. He roasted a whole chicken. Now, this leads me to the discussion of garlic stuffed chickens. And the inevitable question I must ask you, why have you never done it? If you want to stuff a chicken with garlic, you got to do this the real way. So we're talking 25 to 30 garlic cloves, peeled. You can buy them pre-peeled, doesn't matter. And you can also add some other interesting things. There's a very famous medieval recipe that I got from a cookbook from, I believe, the court of Richard II. So that would have been very late 14th century. I think he died in 1400. But anyway, that involved stuffing the chicken with parsley, grapes, and I believe it was 25 to 30 cloves of garlic. Let me tell you, you can put just about any fruit in there you want. If you've never stuffed a chicken with fruit and garlic, I honestly don't know what you are waiting for. Pat the inside of the chicken dry and spice it any way you'd like. It doesn't matter on the outside. If you want to be really fancy, you can stuff cloves under the skin of the chicken, but you don't need to. You can just fill the cavity of the chicken with whatever fruit you like. Grapes are particularly good because they lose their flavor, but the chicken gets a kind of sweetness from them. And parsley just helps to aerate it. And the garlic it's like the chicken has inhaled garlic into all its essence. But you got to use a lot of garlic. Of course, you know that when you roast garlic in any way, including inside a bird, it gets creamy and loses its sharp flavor. And the chicken just gets garlicky. Oh my goodness. Now you can do this in any number of ways. You can just roast the chicken in the oven. I would cover it until the very end of the roasting process with tin foil because you don't want the outside scorched and you don't want the garlic flavor to be scorched. You want the garlic flavor to be kind of mellowy. In the end, of course, for the last few minutes, you can take the tin foil off and crisp up the skin, whatever you like. So you can just do this any way you want to do it with garlic and any fruit, but I highly recommend chicken. And you can throw in any aromatic herbs. Again, parsley and grapes go nicely with garlic inside a chicken. And you can do this in the oven. You can do it in a Rommertopf. If you're going to do it in a Rommertopf, add some liquid to the Rommertopf. Might I suggest white wine, little bit, and watered down because we don't want any explosions when the wine hits its explosion point. Maybe you don't want to put white wine in a Rommertopf, come to think of it. Okay, if you're going to do it in the oven, though, remember it may blow your oven door open. You know, alcohol, it has a low explosion point. What do you want me to tell you? At any rate, put some liquid. You could put broth or chicken stock or any stock in the Rommertopf with the stuffed chicken. You can do this in your slow cooker. And again, you're going to add some liquid to it. I would strongly consider pouring some orange or lemon juice over it in a slow cooker. And again, you can just let this go overnight and drive everybody insane by morning. Or the original recipe I learned from the court of Richard II of England was to put it all in a big stock pot and just fill the stock pot with water and kind of boil your chicken. At any rate, if you have not tried a garlic stuffed chicken, you have something great to look forward to. And yes, my husband's iteration was sensational. Oh, shoot. Well, my last day in Big Bear, I got myself out onto the Alpine pedal path on Tuesday of my week when the boys left me alone Monday night. On Tuesday, I did the eastern half starting at this bridge across part of the lake. And I just ran as far as I could go and ended up at this plank bridge at a place called Juniper Point, which was a lovely place to stop and turn around. And so on Thursday, I went back to Juniper Point this time, and I ran westward, and I ended up at the solar, I don't know what it is. It's some kind of little museum that is about solar energy in Bear Valley, I think. At any rate, I didn't look at it. I just was thinking, I hurt so badly. I was having some acclimation issues with the altitude, which is odd. I live at almost 4,000 feet, but 7,000 was tough on me. And so the interesting thing was we hiked on Monday. We were going up Castle Crag, and there are pictures of that in the show notes. And then on Tuesday, I ran the eastern half of the Alpine Pedal Path, which was more hiked than biked, by the way. They're perfectly fine with hikers on it. And I was in agony after running that eastern half of the pedal path on Tuesday. Wednesday, I spent the whole day doing a really difficult and tedious lawn ethics class for 6 hours after lying in bed late. And my legs were locked up and I was miserable. So Thursday, when I went out to run the western half of the path, I thought, oh, this is going to be awful. And it was for the first 15 minutes. I just felt terrible. Felt like I couldn't breathe. I was going uphill. Then the downhill didn't help me much. But towards the end of the first half, it began to go downhill. And I began to be able to sightsee a little more. The views of the lake were spectacular from the north side, which is much less crowded than the south side. Anyway, I ran to their solar information center, whatever it is, and I turned around and came back and made it comfortably back to the bridge just in my cool down period, and realized at that point that this had somehow helped all the congestion and pain in my legs, and my lungs were going a lot better. So there's some lovely pictures that I took on my cool down walking back, and I hope you enjoy that. Meanwhile, I was talking about gear, and last week I talked about shoes and the idea of getting good shoes and getting fitted insoles if you're going to do any kind of heavy-duty exercise, including trail hiking. So I thought this week I would just talk about socks, because I think I never knew about good socks until I became a runner, and it turns out that's really key to know about good socks. If you are running or jogging, or even walking, you want to look into runner socks. They are more tightly fitted to your feet. They tend to be supportive under the arch and more elasticized through the footbed than typical socks. They cling to your leg tightly, and they are cotton with a certain amount of elastic in them to make all this possible. And they're usually very thick, very padded cotton. They provide excellent support on their own. I will often wear them around the house like slippers, although they're not that thick. But they are great in your running shoes. They're also great in your hiking boots and in your walking shoes. They don't slide down. Now, I have to wear them at what's called the quarter-inch length, or the quarter length, where they come out of my shoe and come up over my ankles. If I wear the no-show type of low sock, they will slide into my shoe. My foot is shaped badly for that I have very, very narrow heel cords and then a broad heel. And so anything slides down except the quarter length running socks. Or I could wear calf lengths, but they're a little too big and constrictive for me. At any rate, you really want to look at running socks. Once again, I've put the link to Roadrunner Sports because you can buy their generic brand. They are not cheap. They sell the type I wear, 3 pairs for I think $32, even with the VIP bonus. You want to watch out for sales. You can buy these from probably just about anyone. I'm sure Adidas and Nike make these as well. I'm sure there's all sorts of generic off-brands. But you do want to look into a good fitted sock. You don't need a lot of these, 3 or 4 pairs, and you're good. Just keep cycling them through your washing machine. But I really recommend it. The other thing you want to look at is if you're doing serious hiking in the mountains where you need ankle support. So you're buying good hiking boots that rise around your ankle and support your ankle. You do want to look at well-made wool socks in this same vein. You want wool socks that are elasticized and will hold up, will not slide down into your boots, because that's kind of an agony to be hiking a trail up above the tree line and your feet are killing you and you're getting blisters because your socks are sliding down into your feet. Again, I would be wearing fitted insoles with any hiking boots that I took that seriously, and I would be wearing the fitted socks. These are big investments. When I talk about a good running shoe or a good hiking boots actually aren't that expensive. The really high ones that support your ankle are surprisingly inexpensive compared to running shoes. But, we are talking in the range of anywhere from $80 up to about $150. The insoles can be anywhere from $85 to $100 if you're getting them custom fitted. But this is a great investment to make in your hobby. You really want to do this right because it's going to protect you for a long time, and that goes for your socks as well. Fluffy books. Nothing much has changed there. I'm listening to A Wicked Conceit in the Lady Derby series and The Air Affair. And I'm reading A Wicked Conceit as well on my Kindles. It really depends on which Kindle I'm playing with, because one of my Audibles is set to The Air Affair and yet the other one is somehow mysteriously set to A Wicked Conceit. I am enjoying both of them. I read The Air Affair first probably back in the late, I want to say 1980s or early 90s, and it has not lost anything with age, although it does feel dated. You can tell it's a 1980s world, even though it's an alternative Britain. One of my friends just is reading ahead of me in the Ray Bradbury book, Zen and the Art of Writing, and just sent me a note saying, you've got to read this chapter. I've got to return to it. Nonfiction just feels too serious for me right now. Okay, where else? Also, I wanted to tell you about, I mentioned the Sebastian St. Cyr. That's how an American would say it. I suspect it's meant to be Sebastian Sincere, but it is spelled, his last name is spelled, the abbreviation for saint or street, ST period, and then capital CYR. These are kind of gritty Regency mysteries, and the thing to love in these is his relationship with Hero. And that's all I'm going to say. But until I get on to the next Sebastian Sincere mystery, I'm going to hold off there. A wicked conceit. Well, our heroine is pregnant, and they're sort of really dilating and delaying the plot a bit more than this writer normally does. Anna Lee Huber, her name is. Even so, I am enjoying it. I've sort of fallen for the main characters, which is good. It has its irritating habit of always saying, oh, my shady past. Oh, will British society ever accept me? Well, of course they do. However, one of the things I think this writer is really getting right is how the upper level of British society, focused in London and sometimes Edinburgh, all really know each other and know each other's genealogies. So characters keep cropping up over and over again. She does it in the beginning with her lovable rogue character, but then, of course, you know what's going to happen. Sooner or later, she's going to find that right woman and marry him off. But she begins to understand that she can do it with all of her characters. So everywhere that the Gages go, our main couple, they keep running into other characters they know or encountering the histories that we've already read of other characters. Also, the author is extremely good at reminding us of those histories because you're not going to remember them that much from book to book. So it is a very tight little upper crust society in this series, and I think that's probably pretty realistic for people who are moving just below the level of royalty. In other words, upper nobility of the these I think they're set in about the 1830s. So it's very interesting. It's not Victorian and it's not strictly Regency. So it's an interesting era to use anyway. All right, enough of that. On to something I really like. Well, you knew I would say it, the Couch to 5K apps. I cannot tell you how many times in my life I have restarted running at this point. I think every runner goes through this, that you get a serious injury or you bear a child or whatever, and you slow down on the running. Or you live through a pandemic and you concuss yourself after getting the illness and you're sick for months. And anyway, however you come to it, many of us have to restart. And the Couch to 5K apps, there's so many of them, and at this point, you pretty much have to buy one. There probably are free ones, but to get all the bells and whistles, you're probably going to pay about $5. And the one I have is so old, I don't think it's even on the App Store anymore. It just has an orange square with a 5 on it. But there are a lot of people who have done this, starting with the original by a guy named Hal Higdon, bless him, who's really old now, and I don't know if he's still running or not. He was till very recently. He's pretty impressive. He was one of the editors and major writers of Runner's World back when I was a pup, back when I was running in my late 20s and early 30s. So the guy's been around. At any rate, now the Couch to 5K is an interesting thing too, because it's not a bad strategy to use even if you want to walk or speed walk. It really starts with the idea that you don't know how to do anything. Now, in Hal Higdon's original, he had a piece of advice that I think is so worth repeating, and nobody includes it anymore, which I think is sad. Because when you say, well, I'm going to start getting ready to run a 5K race, You don't say, I want to walk for a month. You just say, how do I start running? So most of the Couch to 5K applications, and they're usually called Couch to 5K. They used to be called, I think Higdon's was Couch Potato to 5K. And there's Walk to 5K, Learn the 5K, Bridge to 5K, Ease into 5K. There's all different ways to say it. But at any rate, the original advice that was so good that Higdon gave as a coach was, before you start it, walk 30 minutes a day for 1 month. And I'm going to repeat that here because it's this little known fact that when you learn to run, or even when you learn to go out and speed walk or hike routinely for your fitness, you actually have to learn how to do it. That is, you have to sort of debug your process. What kind of shoes do you need? What kind of socks don't work for you? Like I was telling you, I can't wear the little hidden socks that are not seen above the sides of your shoes. Those just slide up to my toes in a lumpy ball under the arch of my feet. So you have to learn things like that. You have to learn, like, these shoes are way uncomfortable. You buy new shoes for the project and you realize, oh my God, these are a mess. I might need a fitted insole or a custom insole that you buy off the shelf. Whatever, I need to work out the socks. Oh, these shoes are giving me blisters right under the base of my big toe. Whatever it takes, you're going to need that information. You also need to learn, what does it feel like just to be out for 30 minutes? If you're a couch potato and you haven't been getting out, 30 minutes is a long time. It doesn't seem like it when I say that, but it is. So walking 30 minutes just gives you a sense of how much time it's going to take you. You also need to learn route, and this is true even if you're biking outdoors. You have to figure out, where am I going to do this? You have to sort of troubleshoot what your route will look like. You have to work out your apps. Yes, technology. When I was starting to marathon, when did I start? In the 90s. I remember buying stopwatch after stopwatch because I kept crushing them or sitting on them or stepping on them. It's so funny now to think all I did was run a stopwatch and walk 1 minute, run a minute, walk a minute, run a minute, when I started. Now I've got this, I could not believe the app when I got the app, how convenient it is. It takes one of your playlists and it plays it, and in between your playlist songs it tells you run now, walk now, warm up, cool down, that sort of thing. So yeah, you have to learn about your app. You have to listen to your app just 1 or 2 days to hear what it sounds like, to find out, is there anything I need to know about the app? For example, the app doesn't tell you when to drink, but they originally didn't tell you when to stretch. Now they do. The newest iteration actually has stretching involved. It even has diagrams on the phone page that you can look at of how to stretch. So you need to troubleshoot all this stuff. That is what I'm telling you. And I'm a great believer. Now, finally, this time I did not walk 30 minutes. I did not. I was doing that at the time I got my concussion back in the summer of 2020. But this time I realized I know all these routes. I've been living here 20 years. I know exactly what to do. And also, I've got so many years of routes on this app and on the Runtastic app, which is now Adidas. It used to be Runtastic. I have so many years of routes collected on those because I have premium memberships. They're like $10 a year and worth every penny. So I don't need to figure this stuff out, and I already know what works for me. So this time around, I just went out and got the great shoes and the machine-fitted insoles from Roadrunner. But I really want to recommend, if you're going to start exercising, no matter what you're going to do, even if you're swimming, even if you're biking, before you do anything, you might want to use that troubleshooting month. I'm not sure what that would look like swimming. I think walking for 30 minutes so you get used to the idea of a 30-minute swim is a fine idea. But I think you might try more paddling around in your local pool and just trying out equipment without seriously drilling. Just taking yourself out for easy laps or just back and forth a few times, take a break, back and forth a few times, whatever. With a bike, I do recommend you spend some serious research time looking at local maps. When I began to bike the 16-mile trail that runs from Ojai to Ventura in the ocean, that's how I did it, was I started to problem solve. Where would I park my car? How would I get the bike back up the hill? First time I did it wrong. I started in Ventura, biked uphill to Ojai, nearly killed myself, spent like 3 hours in Ojai, and then turned around, and fortunately it was an easy downhill ride. But frankly, I don't do the uphill portion anymore. I go to Ojai and I park right where the bus will drop me, the bus that brings me back from Ventura. And part of it was I had to learn how to put my bike on the front of the bus. I had to learn about the bus passes and who would help me. It's been a great experience. But whatever kind of exercise you want to get into, even if you're using a treadmill or some kind of Peloton bike or mechanical bike, you want to take the time to just troubleshoot it before you start. This was meant to be about the Couch to 5K apps, but you can see I've gone in two directions on that. Thank you for your patience. So we're up to the blather at last. Well, vacation. We're all home from Big Bear. I came home on Friday. The boys came home on Monday evening. I have to tell you, the thing about Big Bear that stops me from running there every weekend is the drive up is very scary. That you're very much on cliff edges no matter how you come in, and you're on hairpin curves. Now, the route I took was actually the most straightforward, where I crossed the desert north of the San Bernardino Mountains. Big Bear is in a cup in the San Bernardinos. And I crossed to the north side. It was a beautiful drive through pure desert. And how can I say this? Siri and MapQuest were good to me. It was a really, really good route. It was only when you were ascending finally at the very, very end, you ascend very just steeply right up. And there are two 10-mile-an-hour hairpin curves that, believe me, you must do at 10 miles an hour. And they were scary going up. I thought my standard transmission was going to stall. If I had been on a stick shift, it wouldn't have bothered me nearly as much, I have to admit. Coming down with a standard was just scary. There's no way to say it. I came down incredibly slowly. And of course, traffic backed up behind me. Actually, that was the weird thing. There's no traffic at all. Then I get to the hairpin curve at 15 miles an hour. Suddenly there's two cars. I get past it. They go past me. I'm like, I'm cool. Just pass me. I pulled over, in fact, at one point. And then I get to the 10-mile-an-hour curves, and these guys are riding right on my tail. And I'm thinking, why would you do this? This is when I realized that everybody up there who is a resident or a regular drives a Jeep, and I certainly understand why. In a Prius sedan, it was kind of nerve-wracking. However, it was done, and then it was a long, peaceful drive through the desert, through a big town called Victorville, where I stopped at various Starbucks and had drinks and used restrooms to calm myself down. When I got off those hairpin curves, I will tell you, I was literally shaking. However, I did it. At the age of 60, I wonder how many more times I'll be willing to. My husband said, well, I'll drive next time. I said, I'll still be terrified. I panic in the car, things like that. It's not your fault. And he said, well, you can wear your sleep mask. And I thought, blindfolded? I think I'd have to be sedated. At any rate, barring that, it was a great trip back. And meanwhile, I did get to walk around the town. I went to the western side of Big Bear Lake City and went to Boulder Bay Park. And there's some lovely pictures in the show notes of that. I liked Boulder Bay Park because it was a wealthy woman's estate along the lakefront, and she donated it to the city as a park, and it's wonderful. And also there are some pictures from our climb up Castle Crag. I did not put my hub's picture in. I wasn't sure how he'd feel about that. But you can see a lovely view of the lake from halfway up the crag, and yours truly. But I gave out later, I did put the hubs and the beloved son's pictures in because I had to because of the trilby, but I'll get there. Meanwhile, you say, well, what did you do up there? Well, I decided that I should get through the last of my continuing ed to renew my license in September. So I did that. That was 6 hours of terrifying law and ethics. And then our group practice, the boss wants us to certify with some group. I don't know who they are. She handles this stuff, and she's great at this. But she's very entrepreneurial. And to do this, they want us to take all these classes, 24 of them. So, you know, we were supposed to take 5 a month. I finally realized I've taken all these classes before. Same material, different provider, but a lot of it was the same. Like there was a lot of SAMHSA material, which is a group that works on mental health and addiction policies in America. And I've studied all that. So these courses were actually really easy for me. So, well, instead of doing 5, I did 23. The 24th I would have done. It's on sexual harassment in the workplace. And again, I could download the test, and I can probably pass the test, but you have to sign an oath that you actually read the course materials, which I couldn't do because they wouldn't download. So darn it, I sent in a letter asking for help, but I sent it late on a Friday afternoon. So I can't get course number 24 done, although I have got the test answers in place. I just want to read the materials and check my answers. So this means effectively I did, 29 hours of continuing ed in the last few days, and it felt really good. I realized I was bored and restless, and I wanted to get these things out of the way, and it felt good to just crank through them. This reminds me to say that a very important thing happened in my job, which was I had a great talk with the boss, not this week, but last week, and I arranged my schedule with her. The front desk they have not quite caught up yet, but I told the boss what I wanted for a schedule. We had a great discussion, and I just said, I want to see 6 patients a day, 3 patients lunch hour and 3 patients, and I can do that. And that means all my notes will be done on time, because in the lunch hour, I do my notes for the first 3 patients, and then I see the remaining 3 patients and do my notes, and then I prep all my notes and review for the next day, and I message all my patients about any reminders they need. It's a very good system. It works really well. My patients are very loyal to me, and I'm very loyal to them. At any rate, we came to this agreement, and the agreement was basically I don't have to go back to the office, that she's been very happy with my work. My patients are happy with my work. The psychiatrists are happy to send me patients. In short, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do to keep everybody happy. And so I can see 5 more patients a week if I don't have to drive in. So anyway, we will see how it works out. But the reality is I no longer have to work in her office. I can stay home. Her front desk will do all my scheduling and deal with recalcitrant clients or patients. And my job is to sit at home and just book through patients and keep my notes up to date. I'm loving it. So that's like the great news. When I think about it too much, I get so happy I'm almost blinded by my joy, to be honest. It's hard for me to even take in. It's such a wonderful piece of news for me. So I came home from Big Bear, and I've still been pondering this, and I finished up all these courses that I could finish, and I now have a blessed 2 days, my weekend. I'm back to my normal weekend. So I have tomorrow off, and I probably will knit finally. And I probably will run. And then, of course, on Monday, I will prep my cases, for next week. And it'll be nice to get back to work again. I really feel great about the way all this has worked out. My beloved second shot, he will be receiving it in Bakersfield, about 2 hours away from us. So on Thursday, I will be driving up Thursday morning and getting my hotel room, and then seeing patients from the hotel room. He and the beloved son arrive Thursday night or Friday morning, I'm not sure which, so he can get his shot Friday morning, and then we're staying there so he can be sick. He's getting his second Moderna. So you will hear how that works out. In the meantime, we decided to refresh the beloved son's wardrobe because we are facing the fact none of his clothes fit. The kid shot up in the last 6 months. He's taller than me now. Grr. So we went out shopping, and my husband made me happy because my son is really not interested in wardrobe. He likes certain types of clothes. He likes exercise clothes. He exercises a lot. There's a reason he does. He swims and he runs, and he was doing rock climbing and ice skating, so he got very comfortable in fitted exercise clothing, stretchy pants and all that, So this time my husband said, we really need to just look at non-exercise clothes, and you're 15 years old. And my son just shrugged and said, just pick out whatever. And my husband said, no, we want your clothes to reflect you. So we took him to Target, and he immediately went for all the Star Wars and Mandalorian t-shirts. And I think he got a Harry Potter. Oh, gosh. I can't remember what all he got. But we just let him go crazy in the t-shirts. We got him like 6 t-shirts and some shorts. We couldn't find swim trunks that fitted him. And I happily whipped out my measuring tape from my knitting kit that I carry with me, and we measured his waist because we couldn't try things on, and we bought him clothes, and I measured his feet, and we bought him shoes, which we could try on. So we had a great time, and to our utter delight, he saw these hats, and they were Trilby hats. And he picked one up, and he put it on. He said, I want this. And my husband started to snicker. My husband and I both dislike trilbies. And it looks great on my kids. So we all went out to lunch to celebrate. We went to the Habit, and I had a humongous salad for lunch and then the rest for dinner. And they had burgers and just great time. And you can see us sitting there. We all tried on the trilby. And we all look kind of groovy, but we all look very different in it for some reason. It really shows who we all are. Finally, Minerva gets the last word. She was thrilled to have me back, and she has been simply attached to me. Actually, right now she's not, and that's the first time since I came home. She keeps walking up to me and meowing and asking to sit in my lap, and she wants to lie in my lap and knead her paws, which hurts because she still has her claws. But she is definitely clinging to me. This morning she screamed at me until I moved over so she could jump on the bed, and then she did what she never does. She laid on my chest with her head pushed into my face, and I was supposed to make kissy noises and pet her and scratch her under the chin. So Minerva, her last word this time would be, I got my human back, and I am clinging to her. That will probably last about 24 hours, and then she'll be done with me, and she'll be back to being Minerva. But I have to tell you, when we went out today to go shopping, when I came home, she was frantic. I mean, she really thought I had left again. Eleanor, by the way, is trying to get the last word. She's lying here, just watching me. Give me a little collie side eye there. And she's been very talkative. She does what's called collie talking, which is grunting. They just go, when you're hugging them or interacting with them. And she is getting more and more talky as the weeks go by. I'm not sure what that's about. Even my husband is getting talked to now. Originally, it was just for me. It was her love talk to me. So I guess I'm really giving Eleanor the last word here. And Minerva's not in the room. So there we go. So there we are. I'm thrilled at the fact that so many of you are vaccinated already, and those of you who aren't are getting their second vaccines. I'm very happy. We're looking forward to getting my husband through the process. He's having a very hard time obeying the rules, although he thinks he's doing great. I would disagree. And my son is just kind of doing time because he's 15, so we're waiting. We're pretty sure he's going to be vaccinated by the end of the summer one way or another. And so all I can tell you is, yes, everybody, please stay safe. Please get your vaccines. No big deal. Don't worry about it. Just get it done. And remember to social distance, wash your hands, wear your mask, but most of all, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.